But no, I'm just.
You were teaching?
Yeah, I'm in.
I don't miss teaching.
Really?
I miss coaching.
You just need to tell me, are we at 4:30 yet or not?
Doug Gann's got to be here.
No, we're starting at 4:30. So,
You have a quorum?
yeah, we're a quorum if we need to be. We're not going to vote on anything, we're just getting information.
Wait until it gets on 12,
Yes, sir.
because he's busy coming at 12.
Jamie, who all is on this committee? No,
There's two of us and Doug.
Doug, okay.
Yeah.
We have one more minute.
I'm going to call the public safety meeting, committee meeting to order, and we appreciate everybody being here. Obviously, you're interested in the one item we have on the agenda. The reason that the meeting was called is that Adrian was concerned as a result of Richard Turner's request, and so Richard, I think you probably need to address us and tell us what was the concern and where the information came from that would cause you to be concerned about the position.
Well, I wouldn't say it was so much a concern, and actually I didn't call the meeting. I brought this up at retreat, and one of the members said
No,
this.
I said Adrian called the meeting,
Okay.
but it was because of your request to look at the situation.
All right, so what drove this was, I got to the last public safety meeting a little bit late. I was listening to Chad in his presentation. I think he was asking for a new captain's position, but one of the things that he said there was we put our assets where they're needed. Okay, so I started thinking about that because I'd heard some people talking about the crime on the boulevard, Park Street. I know we've had incidents there of armed robberies, a hostage situation a while back, robbery at the banks and some other places. So I started thinking, I said, well, based on that, if that's the ideology or philosophy, I said I'd like to look at what we have downtown versus what we have out on the boulevard. And it was strictly just a philosophical question. Does the crime downtown versus the crime out here warrant the position being out downtown rather than in a patrol area where you've got that kind of crime? So, I talked with Chad after the retreat, and I guess I understand if there's a feeling of safety and well-being, that has a certain value to it as well. Some of the folks on council say, these things should be data-driven. So basically, I just posed the question. I'll be honest with you, I'm neither pro nor con, but I felt based on that comment, I said, maybe that's something at least we ought to have that discussion. But there is a variable there which I can appreciate. And again, I talked to Chad about it, and he said, if there's a feeling of safety and well-being that has a value to it, I guess that you can't monetize. So I guess in a nutshell, that's more or less it.
All right. Yes,
So
Ron?
as
Yeah.
a member of the committee, could I have the chief to address us about the importance of the downtown officer?
And also the length of time, I think we've had the officer in place, so we have a frame of reference there too.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Council, citizens of Belmont. 2 budget cycles ago, I brought the request forward to add an additional officer to assign to the downtown district due to the importance. And in just a minute, I'm going to read a mission statement about some of the importance, and then I'd like to have some discussion about it. But the reason for that position is with the downtown, especially during the day, during the business, there is a lot of activity downtown. You bring a lot of people to our downtown. We have a very vibrant and growing downtown, and it's an attraction. And it's hard to measure what crime would occur had we not had someone here. But I know that we have a lot of people, a lot of activity. City Hall's open, we have government facilities open, so that is another piece of it. But if I could read just our mission for the downtown officer, if I could start out with that. The downtown officer focuses on community policing and crime prevention techniques in the Main Street District of Belmont. The unit engages in proactive patrol in an effort to reduce crime by high visibility, officer presence, and enforcement activity, which would be, parking violations, any kind of, maybe damage to property, a lot of things, especially during the summers. You have children out or kids out, and they like to get into a little mischief sometimes. The major advantage held by downtown officer is his or her face-to-face contact with the citizens, which I would say is probably the most important, because when I came here, one of the main issues that I heard was there was a lot of trust issues with Belmont Police Department, and there was not a connection to the community. That had been lost along the way, and we had sheriff's deputies and the county police in here policing our area. So when I took over, that was some of the concerns about the connection with the community and the police department. The Downtown Patrol Unit strives to make the most of the advantage by the favorable contacts with citizens who live and work in the downtown area, as well as with visitors to Belmont. Our objective is to combine the individual contact of the historical beat officer, which was critical in my opinion. I think that's something that's really been lost over the years, is that we have kind of been separated from the community, and we need to get back face to face with our community. That's where the trust issue comes. If there's no relationship, there's no trust. So it's critical. With the benefits of the latest community policing initiatives. So we like to add that old-fashioned face-to-face foot patrol type, and you know, not every officer can do that because our city is spread out and there's a lot of activities that draw us. But if we can have that designated person, and other people do it as well, but just the one designated person that serves a lot of purposes, then that's very favorable to our city. The downtown officer strives to be thoroughly familiar with his or her area and facilitate a positive community law enforcement relationship with persons in the area by being known and accessible. And I think that our officer is very known and very accessible to everyone. Duties of the downtown unit, these are just a couple. Attempt to solve problems and address concerns that downtown communities might have. One issue that we have is, I know this is a bit of shock to everyone, but sometimes there's politics. And there's things that get stretched and they're maybe not true, and that officer can identify that immediately, and we can address that, whether it be with the city council, the city manager, other city staff, other community leaders, and other people in the community. So that's a critical piece of it. Attend downtown function and Main Street Belmont meetings. Engage in high visibility foot patrol. I hear from our downtown business owners and visitors constantly that they see Officer Henderson out here walking up and down, sticking his head in there, asking, do you need something? There's something going on we need to know about. So I think that's a positive thing. Investigate all criminal activity in the downtown area and serve as a liaison between downtown businesses and the city. When there's issues, I don't get to hear it through the rumor mill usually. I get to hear it from Officer Henderson or other officers who are visible, or myself from talking to business owners. But that's just the mission part of it and a piece of it. But I think anyone that knows, and especially City Hall, knows that there's a lot more to it than that. And rather than us having to send an officer off the road to pick up the mail to do the mail run, sometimes there's a lot of confidential mail. We deliver council packets to our council members. He delivers the mail. He also escorts our staff here to the bank because they have a lot of cash. And they were doing that by themselves, which is extremely dangerous. That's something that shouldn't happen. He also helps to patrol our parks. After school lets out in the afternoons, it was a constant battle with kids getting out from the middle school. There'd be fights in the park, there'd be destruction of property to our park. I think those issues are just about gone because every day he's there during that time to make sure that those people are dispersed and they move on and they have a good experience with a police officer. So there's a lot of things that Officer Henderson does aside from just sitting around or walking up and down to the businesses. He provides a service to our government facility here and also our citizens that we would have to pull officers off the street for. And again, I can't put a number on what crime could happen downtown because there is an officer here. And as far as some of the other things, Mr. Turner, with valid concern, we do have criminal activity in a lot of different areas. We do have robberies occasionally. We do have thefts of motor vehicles and drugs and all those things. And we try to address those as efficiently and effectively as possible. A lot of our robberies and things do happen. That's where you have the majority of larger businesses. It's easy access, off to 85. And we assign officers. During Christmas, we have a Christmas task force that starts Thanksgiving and they work out there. We reallocate our manpower. And so that's something that when I came in, I started restructuring the police department to put our manpower where it was most efficient, most effective, and public relations is a huge part of everything we do. I don't know how much crime would be in the school if we didn't have an officer there, but we do, because it's a safety net that we allow that person to be there with our children to make sure they're safe. And I think when people come to Belmont, one of the, they a lot of times they don't notice other areas, but they notice your downtown. I hear from people everywhere how beautiful downtown Belmont is and how they love to come here and how they love to see that police officer there. So that's the feedback that I get. I get a lot of feedback from Officer Henderson. I'm just using him because that's his position. Right now that could change and anybody, could be assigned to that, but right now he's done it and he's done it well.
Chief, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
In your professional opinion, is that position valuable where it is?
It's extremely valuable, and it would really hurt us to not have that position there. And I can speak on, I used to be over downtown the city of Gastonia, and that is something that was very critical, and I saw a major difference in how because people would tell me, crime rate is horrible, I don't want to, I don't feel safe walking there. Actually, the crime rate was not horrible, but they did not feel safe. And if you don't feel safe, then you're not safe. It doesn't matter what the crime rate says. And that's my professional and research opinion.
So I'm looking at an audience. It's unusual to have one at a committee meeting. So I would assume you're here in support of the program, most of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the chief coming to the meeting to give us an update, but as far as a member on the safety committee, I don't see any need for any change.
I don't either.
So I'd like to recommend to our chairman that the safety committee come out with a recommendation of no change.
Okay. Well, I guess there are two of us, and
We're
we're both in favor of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yes,
say
we'd be
something.
glad.
I think all of our positions are valuable, and I think that just from the outside looking in before coming here, it's unfortunate. A lot of bad things happen to Belmont. They got a bad reputation. Some of them warranted, some of it not. And I think we've done a great job in improving that image. And every little piece of that makes a difference. And we just received a state award for following best practices in the industry by our insurance carrier. And to me, I feel like Belmont Police Department's on the right track. And I want our citizens, and all of you were not here at the meeting that we received that award. We got a 14% reduction from our liability insurance for the risk for the city. Wow. Because they say, not we, they say we're following best practices. We are hiring very qualified people with education, experience levels. We're bringing 13, 14-year veterans into this police department. With education, I'm huge on education training. We're probably one of the best trained agencies in the state. So for somebody to question how I allocate a position, I don't mean Mr. Turner, I mean in the community, I would just ask them to come and speak with me and understand that everything I do is with a purpose, because I challenge our officers and I do it every day. I look in the mirror and I say, what am I going to do to make Belmont Police Department better today? If you do that, you're failing me, you're failing the organization, you're failing the community. And I challenge them. They can all tell you, I tell them that constantly. If you want to move forward here, you want to be better, you're going to challenge yourself to what you can do to make us better as a community. If not, I don't need you. I was committed to that when I stood before this council for the first time, and I'm committed to that now. And our downtown is very important to making this city successful.
Well, Chief, I would like to...
Level of professionalism has increased exponentially, because I heard negative comments years ago, and I do not now, and that's due to the caliber of people that we have now involved in the police department. So we very much appreciate all of you.
I'd ask Phil a question. You're the downtown. Do you feel the police presence is important?
I do, and I'm also out walking around, and I'm constantly passing and talking and communicating with Ben, and when I go in some of the businesses, they have verbally said and they appreciate, and they point to their calendar. One of them says, I have Ben's number right here, and I have called him, he's been here, so just having that personal, communication, I think is very vital.
So it's vital to support your program too.
Okay.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
I got a phone call from Deborah Boxer today, and she told me I'm not on the Public Safety Committee, but she said to make sure you tell them that I'm in favor of keeping community officer, okay? So that's what I'm doing.
Mr. Mayor, the committee voted a while ago not to recommend any changes.
Good.
And Richard, you had something you
I was late, I
wanted
had a client, and I couldn't leave.
you had something you wanted to add or question?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I did pose the question at the retreat, but it was simply in the question format. And that was on Friday night. Now, Chad came in Saturday, the chief, and we talked about it, and to be honest with you, I was satisfied with his answer, and I told him that. You know, and I said, I'm fine with that, but, as a council person, if you have something on your mind and we're talking about asset allocation, I mean, sometimes you have to ask the question. But I was satisfied with your answer because there's two trains of thought. There's a strictly data-driven, and then there's what you were alluding to is the perception. And I can appreciate that. Like I said, each one has a certain value, and it's hard to monetize either one of them. And I'll be honest with you, Chad, I thought at that point after we talked, we were done with that. I didn't realize there was a public safety meeting, and the city manager sent out his weekly email Monday or Tuesday this week. It was very early because he's going to be out of town. And I looked at it this morning, and I saw that we were having this meeting. To Officer Henderson, I didn't mean for this to take place. I hope this didn't embarrass you at all, because that wasn't my intent. Like I said, I was just posing the question. But, Chief, I'm satisfied with your answer, and I'm sorry that it came to a meeting, because, like I said, I was fine with our discussion at the retreat. I mean, it was resolved at that point as far as I went.
I was asked to, come and speak at it, and actually, probably it's a good thing, because we have people here together and they get to hear, what we do, and everybody's a group. And sometimes, I'm not afraid for you to challenge, or anybody, what we do, because I can stand behind it with a valid answer and a procedure that we put in place to make it successful. So, I guess that's the positive that's come out of it.
I can appreciate that, because I think the other council folks might say there's not a vote that's taken in this chamber that somebody doesn't like. I mean, there's a lot of people that appreciate what you do, and there's a lot of people that will think you're crazy for the position you took. So, I understand what you're saying there.
Madam Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. If I'd known that, I'd have wore a tie. I didn't realize we'd have this many people.
Good to see your police supporters, that's good.
Oh, it's great, but Madam Chairman, I'd recommend that, we adjourn. We have no more business. Unless there's someone
Since
that'd
it's
like
the two
to.
of us, we certainly can.
I don't know if you want to
Oh, did you want to make a comment, Sean?
I would like to
Okay.
speak. Just very
And this
quickly.
is more informal than we usually have, but we usually do not have this big an audience, so we're certainly interested in hearing. We have a meeting at 5, so as long as we switch courses by then, we're
I
good.
want to just say thank you for allowing us to come in and say what we feel as far as business owners and citizens of Belmont. My wife and I work right here on Main Street. We have an office. She feels safe. That's important to me. My brother works there, brother-in-law, he works there, and he feels safe. My mother-in-law, she works there, she feels safe. So I can definitely attest to the feeling of it. But I can also tell you the conversation that I had with you at the Soldiers 10K, I believe 2 years ago. I came up to you and said how much I liked the beat cop being on the street and complimented you, and that was the first that I'd heard of it, and I thought it was great. I would just like to say being in touch with the citizens probably makes you more valuable to us than anything. And communicating with us about what we desire as business owners and citizens of downtown Belmont. We live up on Morgan. Would be very important to us to understand that you're in touch with us. Appreciate the question, but ask people. Go down the street and ask business owners before you decide what we might like. I think that'd be better.
Well, I don't think I was trying to make any decision for you. I mean, as I said earlier, and I'll go ahead and repeat it, it was based on the asset allocation philosophy, so I thought it was a justifiable question. Prior to that, I hadn't really given it a thought, so there wouldn't have been a need to go talk to anybody about that.
Thanks for hearing our voice. We're here to speak.
Sure.
Anybody
Thank you.
else? Yes.
I'm just going to be very informal and sit here. First of all, I want to say thank you to the council, because you guys did put in a lot of the parking signs for us, and thank you as business owners. I think that was wonderful. And then we have Ben that has come along, and our Officer Henderson, I should say. Privately, we call him Big Ben. But anyway, we appreciate the fact that he is out there watching. And I know it was a couple of weeks ago, he came in and asked me about the lights, because he had not seen them, and make sure they were okay, nothing was wrong. So that personal concern for the people that have businesses is really appreciated. And he has heard me be unhappy, has heard me be happy. but he takes it and, you know, if he has a response or something he can do about it, I know that he will. So, and I feel like, I'm not on Main Street, I'm on Catawba Street, but that presence even there, I think has helped. And we all feel a little bit better knowing that there's gonna be an officer that, they don't know when he's gonna be there and at what point. So, just here to support him and say thank you to you guys as well.
Well, thank you.
And I'd actually like to represent the people here at City Hall. We really appreciate him being
Sure.
near us.
Absolutely.
Because there are a lot of people that come in here that are very upset, that speak very disrespectfully, and we're really thankful we have a window, but that window is only going to go so far. And we know that Ben is very close. And there have been times that they haven't been able to reach him, but we can hear what's going on, and we can reach out to him and ask him, and all he has to do is walk in the door. That's all he has to do. And so we really appreciate, on top of him making sure our staff is safe going to the Wells Fargo and the bank drops and things like that, just his presence here in City Hall makes a huge difference.
Safer, yeah.
So we really, as staff, we really appreciate
Hey,
that.
Jackie.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd like to say one
Yes.
thing. I'm going to be kind of informal as well and sit down. I'm general manager at Sammy's, just down the road here. My name's Alex East. I have a great relationship with Ben, along with numerous other officers, most of the gentlemen you see here in this room. I appreciate what Officer Henderson does for us. I see him daily, multiple times, walking up and down the street, coming into Sammy's. I have a pretty big staff down there, and all of my staff feels extremely comfortable knowing that Ben is around, also other officers, Chief Hawkins as well. So for what it's worth, I am grateful to have Ben and everybody else in this community, because along with myself and my staff, we all feel really safe at Sammy's, and that's a really important thing for me as a manager there, that everybody feels safe, including myself. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
You may want
Mary
to,
White from White's Restaurant. He's my buddy. He's my buddy right there. Okay, before he came, there was an incident that happened at the restaurant. And all these guys know I love them all dearly, these policemen, they know I love them dearly. But somebody had dropped one of those wallets about this long in the restroom at the restaurant. And I was coming out and I happened to look at it, it was behind the trash can, and I thought, well, did somebody drop it or did somebody steal it and place it there? So I called down to the police department because I didn't know things had been changed at this particular time. And I called down to the police department and the dispatcher, and I said, I have a problem down here. I found this big long wallet and it's got about 10 charge cards in it, social security numbers, all this stuff, and I don't want to be responsible for it. I said, could you please send one of the officers down? She said, ma'am, we don't do that anymore. You have to call 911. I said, excuse me? And she said, I said, 911? And she said, yeah. I said, what are they going to do? I'm in Belmont. And she said, well, I'm sorry, but that's what you have to do. You have to call 911. This is not what we classify an emergency. I said, I didn't say it was an emergency. I need help. Okay. 2 or 3 days later, I still have the wallet. Somebody, one of the policemen came into the restaurant and I gave it to him. He's a lifesaver right here, guys. He's a lifesaver. All I would have had to have done, had he been on the job, was wait for Henderson to show up sometime or another, which he does. And people see him and they feel safe, they feel secure.
Yeah.
And Matthew at the drugstore told us to tell y'all that he wants him to keep that job because he feels secure that where he is, on the corner there with that drugstore, he feels unsafe a lot of times. And he said he wants y'all to understand that he feels secure with Henderson on the street all the time. And us too. And so I would like you to just change the 911 thing, Bill. I don't want nobody riding around in the county trying to find me. I need help right there. Okay? That's just the way it is. I love this guy right here. I looked out there and I see his vehicle parked in front of the restaurant. I'm going, thank God Henderson's here. You know, it's a security thing, guys. It's security. Everybody feels safe when they know that somebody is around that cares. That is the whole problem. We don't care about each other, and we need to learn that that's what it's all about, care. You care for each other. And like I said, I love this man, okay?
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate the input because we always like to hear from our citizens, and particularly if it's good stuff. Thank you very much.
Which meeting is at 5 o'clock? We have a
Not
meeting
me.
at 5 o'clock? I'm not on that. I gotta make a quick.
You can stay though.
Yeah, I gotta call Matthew and see if he needs any help.
You're not staying for the...
Alice,
I'm not watering. Who is watering? It's not me. Okay. I wonder what happened to Doug.